The purpose of the meeting tonight, this is a town hall meeting. We are discussing Wolf Road. It is a question and answer session. So when you have a question, you hopefully check the box when you signed in. You'll come up, you'll ask a question. We will repeat the question to everybody, and then we will answer the question to the best of our abilities. It's not a discussion format. It's a Q&A, and if you have comments, please submit them in writing. We have a comment box in this room, or you can submit them online through the village's portal. Some introductions. We have with us Mayor Hinshaw, Trustees Kennedy, Eck, Fairmer, and Metz. We also have from Strand Associates, our consulting engineer, Matt Gadziak, who's the lead on this one, Raymond Pooh, and Darcy Gabrisco, sorry. They are the ones who are helping the village with this study. As I said, this is a Q&A. We have a couple hours to get this done. Then we need to leave the room, so hopefully we can accommodate all of your questions during that time. Here's some background of the project. In the 1990s, the village did a pathway study that kind of languished. And then in 2018-19, we started to look at a Safe Routes to School grant, and we submitted a grant application to the county through the Invest in Cook program for a pathway along Wolf Road. This morphed into a much larger study with the county. It was clear from the county that Wolf Road needed to be reconstructed, and the county ordinance and policy dictates that when they do a road reconstruction, that they look at every aspect of the road, including turn lanes, curb and gutter, stormwater improvements, and pathways on either or both sides of the road. Pathway can take a multitude of options, from sidewalks to what are called bicycle paths. And there's some dictates for the sizing of that the engineers will talk about. In 2019 and 20, we passed 2 intergovernmental agreements with the county to start this process. The village is the lead agency on this. The county is reimbursing the village 100% for all expenses regarding this study. The study is ongoing and will probably be done sometime next year. We will have another public hearing on this probably in the spring of 2023. This is a phase 1 study, which is a feasibility study, and we are looking at options and impacts of those options. Later on, if it is funded for a phase 2 study, that's the engineering, and phase 3 is construction. So best case scenario, we're looking at 2026, 2027 for this project, if it gets funded. So again, we've been looking at this for a while. The board is 100% in favor of the study. We don't know what the study will entail. We will know more when the study is complete. When the study is complete, you will get a copy of it, or we will put it online. As I said, Wolf Road is completely under the jurisdiction of the county. They like to partner with municipalities, and that is why we are involved in the process. But ultimately, it is the county, and if we're going to use any other funding, I'll talk about that in a minute, we have to get funding approval from those other agencies, the Illinois Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration. Right now, I can tell you that the county and the village are not recommending the 5-lane option. It's not on the table as far as we're concerned. The reason for this, and some people will say this is a waste of money, especially when it's not even remotely wanted. And by the way, Plainfield Road, IDOT and the Federal Highway Administration endorsed the village's and the county's recommendation that it's 3 lanes. So Plainfield Road will not be 5 lanes. The reason why we had to look at 5 lanes, as silly as it sounds, is if we want federal dollars to pay for any improvements on Wolf Road, we have to go through their process. Their rules say you look at the 5-lane option. End of story. So in order to get, this is going to be at least a $15 million project, at least. And that was from data of 2 years ago. So if the village can't afford it, it's not in our jurisdiction, we're not going to pay for it. The county would rather have other people pay for it, so let's try to get federal dollars. That's why we had to look at 5 lanes. The traffic warrants really do not dictate at all 5 lanes. It crosses over peak hour like 8 cars. So it would be ridiculous. So again, the village will be sending a resolution not supporting 5 lanes to the county board just as part of the process. I wanted to get that out clear right away. Once the project is done, the county and the village will make a joint recommendation to IDOT and the Federal Highway Administration about the layout for the process. So this is about a year away. All right, so that's the story. I'm going to turn it over to Matt Gaziak from Strand, and he's going to walk you through the project. Then we'll take about a 5-minute break so you can sign up if you want to ask any questions, and then we will start taking your questions, and hopefully we'll be out of here by 8:15. Thank you very much.
All right, can everyone hear me in the back? Yes? Okay, perfect. I'm sorry for everyone sitting close. I'm going to be yelling, but just to make sure that everyone else can hear me in the back. As John mentioned, my name is Matt Gadziak, and I am the lead project engineer on the project for Strand Associates, who is both the village engineer and the engineering consultant on this project. As John mentioned, the Village of Indian Head Park, along with Cook County, initiated this study along Wolf Road from 79th Street on the south to Plainfield Road on the north. And as part of this study, we're looking at the overall transportation needs of the corridor, which is more than just vehicles. It includes roadways, bicycle, and pedestrian facilities. So the process that we are following, as John mentioned, he mentioned 2 other partners in this, the Illinois Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration. And to qualify for funding, there's a federal engineering process that has to be followed. So there are specific steps that have to be met, and if you jump through all the hoops and follow their process, then that means you are eligible for federal dollars to help pay for the project. So as part of the process, one of the first steps you're doing is looking at evaluating the existing conditions of the corridor so you can study what's there and help guide with where you're going to be and figuring out what the corridor needs and where you're going with it. So as part of that, we looked at certain things like the crash history along the corridor. We looked at the traffic capacity, not only existing, but what is it going to be in the future. And the standard for what we're looking at right now is designing for the year 2050. And so we're looking at measuring what the traffic is today, and then there is a regional organization, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, that helps to determine what the future projections are going to be for the area based on their overall regional growth plans. And in addition to the traffic capacity, we also looked at certain things like what are the existing drainage patterns along the corridor, where are problem areas, and then also if there are any bridges or culverts along the corridor, what is the status of those? Do they need to be rehabilitated? Do they need to be replaced? Can they be left as is? So the existing conditions is a comprehensive overview of what the existing, what's existing along the corridor right now. And with the traffic projections in particularly, and I know it's hard to see up there, but this is one of the exhibit boards that was presented at the first public information meeting on April 7th, and also is available on Indian Head Park's Village Hall, or Indian Head Park's Village website. Shows what some of the existing traffic levels are, and then also what are those projected out to the year 2050. And so when we're designing for the project, we're looking at what are those 2050 projections going to be. And with that, it's not just looking at if we have existing and then the future build, but we're also looking at what happens if in the future no build condition, where we don't do anything, what's going to happen along the corridor and how are things going to be impacted. So we coordinated with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning to come up with these future traffic projections here. And based on those future traffic projections is where we identified that we met certain criteria that are not established by Strand, but established by the Illinois Department of Transportation for when you have to look at different situations. So because our future traffic projections were above a certain threshold, that means we had to evaluate it as an alternative as part of the project. And looking at all the existing conditions, we were able to come up with the purpose and need for the project. If you could switch that exhibit. And all these exhibits that are being presented, again, are on the village's website and were available at the first public information meeting. So the purpose of the project is to provide improved operational efficiency and safety and enhance pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. And these improvements are needed to address intersection capacity and crashes and provide sidewalk, connectivity, and bicycle accommodations along the corridor. So once we have our purpose and need for the project, we are comparing against what these established design criteria are that are established by the Illinois Department of Transportation. So we've looked at our existing conditions. We kind of have the purpose and need of the project identified, and then we look at what criteria are we using to help guide us to get us to preliminary project alternatives, which are on some of the big aerial exhibits around the room. And again, we're at the first public information meeting, and these are also available on the Village of Indian Head Park's website. So based on the future traffic projections and the design criteria and the purpose and need, we developed these two alternatives. And for the southern half of the corridor, roughly from 79th Street up to the I-294 bridge, that is where only one northbound and one southbound lane is warranted. And then from 294 up to Plainfield Road at the north termini, that is where the traffic levels were higher, and that required us to look at having the two different alternatives, where is the 5-lane section with two northbound and two southbound through lanes, and then a center turn lane. And in either of the alternatives that we have been looking at, one of the things that we found in our existing conditions study was that there is a history of crashes along the corridor. And with all of the offset intersections between Joliet and Plainfield Road, and then also in the southern portion of the corridor with a lot of driveway entrances, side streets, there's certain criteria developed by the Illinois Department of Transportation that provide recommendations for where this center two-way left turn lane is appropriate and can be beneficial to the corridor. So that is why in each alternative that we're looking at, we still do have the center two-way left turn lane. And one other thing to mention is that the existing corridor with the two lanes, just one northbound and one southbound, with no two-way left turn lane. Right now, with the 2 lanes, and then there is a small shoulder on each side, that does not meet the current standards. So for us to have to, if we were going to have that be an alternative to look at that, the shoulders would have to be wider and there would still be open ditches. So the footprint of what that alternative would be similar to a 3-lane section with curb and gutter. And the benefit of having the curb and gutter and a storm sewer system is that some of the drainage issues that we identified as part of our existing analysis, those can be incorporated and improved upon. And for a corridor of the caliber of Wolf Road and the amount of effort that the county is investing in this, along with Indian Head Park, this is the type of project that the county is only going to do maybe once every 50 years. So we have to look far into the future to make sure that we are trying to incorporate what the future needs of the corridor are going to be, even if they may not be present today, because there could be issues that don't show up until 10 or 20 years down the road, but if this is a 50-year project, then the latter half of the lifespan could no longer meet the needs of the corridor. So, as I've mentioned, we had the first public information meeting for this project on April 7th, and this is the first of the 2 formal public information meetings that we're going to have for this project. The second we anticipate holding in spring of 2023. So the first public meeting was more of an introduction to of the project to the community and also to solicit feedback. And with that feedback will help us to work through the alternatives that we have, refine them, and just learn more from the community about how we can improve the alternatives that we have developed. At the second public information meeting is where we will have the alternative, the preferred alternative that's carried forward. We'll have that be refined and be able to have specific impacts for what the impacts are going to be in terms of trees or landscaping or property impacts in terms of land acquisition, or where the potential for a sidewalk or shared use path could be, or where there will be just the more refined project details that we don't have at this point, because at the stage for what we were at for this first public information meeting was more of a data collection process. So we were more just looking to gather data and use that to help drive the project forward so that we are taking the needs of the community as well. So some of these specifics of the comments that we have received and also the discussions had at the first public information meeting, I know that the answers may have not satisfied everyone in terms of the specificity of it, but that's just not where we're at the stage of the project. So there will be a second public information meeting. As I mentioned, we're anticipating that would be spring of next year, and that would be where we would have the specific details of everything kind of dialed in. But that's that's near the end of this phase 1 study, but that's not the end of the project. So if we are able to, if there's something that comes out of left field for the project team at the second public information meeting, we would still have time to tweak and refine and incorporate things. But the reason why we had the first public information meeting, where we're a little earlier into the specifics of the project, is so that we can take any of the bigger suggestions and incorporate those or evaluate them and for incorporation moving forward. So talking a little bit about the next steps after this first public information meeting, this town hall meeting, and then also where we're going after this. So the public comment period has been, the deadline for that has been extended to Thursday, May 12th, 2022. And comments can be made. There's a comment box. I think it's in the back corner there with some printed comment forms out. There's also an electronic comment submission form on the village's website. We recommend the village's website for the submittal of comments, but comments can be given in any time. There is a project study email that is available on the village's website as well, and is also listed on some of the documents that were handed out at the first public information meeting. So after the May 12th date, we are going to, after the official public comment period closes, is when we'll be able to evaluate the comments as a whole and figure out how we're going to move forward with the project. And we've received many comments so far, so thank you for everyone who has shown an interest in the project and has provided feedback so far. After the first public information meeting, the feedback that we have gotten will be evaluated in the context of the overall study, and then we will be responding to all the comments as well. And Cook County, who, as John mentioned, is has jurisdiction over Wolf Road, they, in conjunction with the village, will make the recommendation for which alternative is being carried forward as the preferred alternative. And that recommendation will be then presented to the Illinois Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration for their concurrence, so that we can move forward with the project even further. As John mentioned, with the Plainfield Road project, they also had two different alternatives that were evaluated, a 5-lane alternative and a 3-lane alternative. And then based on the public feedback that was received at the meeting, and also just other conversations and things that happen as part of the public involvement process, they took that and were able to present it to the Illinois Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration, and say, this is our recommendation. The village does not support the 5-lane alternative. The county does not support the 5-lane alternative. The public does not support the 5-lane alternative. And IDOT and FHWA signed off on that to say, we concur with your recommendation. You can move forward with this 3-lane alternative. So, if that is the direction that is that recommendation that is made, that's going to be presented to IDOT and FHWA for their concurrence with our recommendation. And then after we concur with IDOT and FHWA about the preferred alternative, at that point we will move forward, now that we kind of have a much clearer vision of where we're going with the project, and then we're able to make more of the specific refinements and really dial in the specifics of the project. And then the second public information meeting will be held to provide an update on the preliminary engineering that has occurred to that point, and then the ongoing environmental reviews that are going on right now by IDOT, and then also we'll present the final impacts to the corridor. So with that, I think, Sean, are you keeping track of comments? I am. Okay. So yeah, so I think now it's opening up to the question and answer portion.
Do we want to take a break, Matt, or do we?
Take a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
And then.
So my name is Patricia Chapetta. I live in Acacia. My question is, what is the fatality rate that you guys are saying, like between motorcycles, cars, and people?
No, go ahead.
My question was, what's the fatality rate between motorcycles, people, and cars? What is the rate? On Wolf Road. On Wolf Road.
Yep. Yeah. So the question was, what is the accident rate or fatality rate along Wolf Road? So the crash report, the draft crash report that we have developed is on the village's website. And I don't have all these statistics at my fingertips right here, but I can tell you that there was one fatality within the study period, which the standard study period for this type of project is we look 5 years into the past, and then if there is, for the years that are beyond that, as the project advances, we'll update the data with that. But in the past 5 years, there was one fatality along Wolf Road, and then there were 3 serious crashes along Wolf Road. There were none that involved pedestrians, though, along Wolf Road. There were maybe 3 or 4 accidents that did involve pedestrians, but none of them were fatalities.
Was that between Joliet and Plainfield specifically?
That was the fatality occurred at the I-294 bridge. At along Wolf Road under the I-294 bridge, not on I-294. Sorry for the if there's any misunderstanding. But the study was for the entire project corridor from 79th Street up to Plainfield Road.
So 1 in 5 years. 1 in 5.
Not even in that stretch.
Again,
All right.
I don't have these specifics at my fingertips, but the crash draft crash report is available on the village's website.
So please, let us one at a time, please, and we'll call the next question. Amy Eckert.
Think that's a problem.
I don't think so. Amy Eckert, I live in Acacia. Most of the questions I had, I think, have been answered. But one thing I do want to ask is, at what point in this whole process, particularly when the decisions are made as to what size the road is going to be and whatnot, are you going to involve the village residents, for instance, in how is it going to be landscaped and hardscaped? Are you going to make that decision as a board, or are you going to include the people that's going to be impacted by all of this?
We will include all the residents in this process.
How?
We will let you know. Pay attention at the village websites. We will
Can you wait so we can hear his answer, please?
We will let you know either through our board packet, which is always available online, typically the Friday before the Thursday board meeting. We will do social media blasts. We will put it up on our Facebook page, which is social media, sorry. We will do our best to let you know what's going on. Social media and the village's website.
Okay, then to add to that question, will the village board consider having a committee of residents help make the decision as to the landscaping and hardscaping to improve the privacy and the noise reduction when this is done?
I think that's a great idea. I would suggest you come to a future board meeting and ask them.
You'll be sorry,
And
John.
my bet is they will. I don't want to speak for the board, but I think
Okay.
it's a great idea. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, also, we do have budgeted in the new budget starting May 1st, $80,000 for landscaping. It's a drop in the bucket, but we're looking at this to do this every year so that the village will actually do something over and above what the county or the state's going to be doing.
So the county and the state will do something.
Yes. At a minimum, they will replace any tree in certain specifications that they have in kind, but we will do over and above what the county or the state will do.
So you're saving money, but you don't know how it's going to be spent.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and I apologize, I think it's Bruno Tessone?
My name is Bruno Tassoni. I live at 6627 Cochise Drive. This is the second time we lived here in the 90s, moved downtown for 20 years, came back and bought the same house from the same people. We love this community. It's quiet, it's diversified, and it's lovely. We want to know, why isn't there a third alternative suggestion, recommendation, like what the people want, what we want, not what the county wants? It looks like, so that's one question. The second question is, look around here. 2050, I'll be 110. Where's the third
Okay,
alternative?
the question is, where's there a third option? Well, we came up with two. We're having public meetings. It's your chance to say, hey, how about this idea? That will be considered.
I'm gonna repaving what you got right now.
Right. Again, this is a county road, county jurisdiction. They are responsible for maintenance of it.
Where are they at?
This is a town hall meeting. It's for the village only, for us to receive your input. That is why they are not here. It's a town hall meeting.
All right, next we have Karen Barthel.
Karen Barthel, Indian Ridge. Most of my questions have been answered. I do question on both plans, I do not see any delineation of our lot lines of our properties. I wondered if that is a common fact, or do you not put it on the engineering plans?
I believe those are shown on the drawings.
They're showing right-of-ways. I see nothing as far as a designated lot line. And the maps that are on the county now, the latest imagery, the aerial imagery was from 2019. Those are not 2019 maps. They do not show what they show on the aerial views. In fact, I have a copy of our subdivision, and it doesn't show what's on there. So I question that. And if it's...
Yeah.
I was questioning the delineation of the lot lines, and the current Cook County viewer map does not match what's on these alternatives that we've seen.
Raymond is looking at the exhibits right now. If they are not on there, then we can re-upload the we have that information available at our fingertips, so we can re-upload those on the village's website tomorrow with those.
Okay.
We do have all the right-of-way line work on there.
And the individual lot lines?
There's no lot lines.
Property lot lines, not the
All right, we have the right-of-way listed, which means the county right-of-way is designated. Maybe individual lot lines going perpendicular to the road are not there, but the county right-of-way is definitely specified on the maps.
Yeah. We have that information available at our fingertips. We can provide that to you and also post it on the village's website tomorrow.
All right. And my question about the resolution, will that be presented at the next board for the village meeting for the trustees to vote on that resolution in our May meeting?
At a minimum, the May meeting, maybe the June meeting, but one of those two meetings it will be done.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what resolution? We didn't catch.
A resolution opposing the 5-lane option.
What about both?
And that is what I said earlier.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next I have a Jay Brandish. And just a reminder, even though it doesn't work in the room, please try to speak into the microphone for the recording. Thank you.
Hi, Jack Brandish at Acacia. I have a construction question. On alternatives 1 and 2, you have culverts underneath the road. If you had an alternative with the impervious area as is, would you need a culvert underneath the road?
I guess without referring to a specific location as it is, I'd say if there is an existing culvert underneath the road right now, there would be a need for it. But
would you need new culverts if you had alternative 3, like they were suggesting, to leave the same impervious area that you have now? Do you need culverts underneath the road?
I'd say in general, if there is an existing culvert there, we would need one in the future. And if there is, and as part of the drainage study that we did, if we see that there is water backing up because it's not sized properly, then something like that would have to be updated. Or if there's new impervious area where it's not grass, it is sidewalk or pavement, that would all be accounted for in the new
But if it's the same impervious area that you have now, no increase in the amount of impervious area, do you have to add holding capacity for stormwater, which is a culvert?
I guess that's not specifically an alternative that we looked at. I would say because that's more of a no-build
But because
situation.
you have the sidewalks,
you'll need the culvert.
You have to account for the
Thank
drainage
you.
somehow if there is additional impervious area such as sidewalk.
For drainage, have the rules changed?
I can't answer to that.
Okay.
Matt, I just
Yep.
want to make sure you're done.
Yep.
Sandy Hayes.
My husband and I have been residents of this community for 50 years. We built a home, not a house for you to destroy. We are impacted with the plans that you have at this moment. I want to know that by the time you get around to the next meeting in the spring, it appears that your plan will already be set and ready to go into motion. How do I ensure that my yard is not lost with your proposal, even with the 3 lanes? Isn't there some way that you can buy some of that property in the wetland area on the east side and build out that way and not come onto my property?
Yep. Just to reiterate the question, it was talking about any potential need for land acquisition at the northwest quadrant of Joliet and Wolf Road. And as we had shown on one of the exhibits, that intersection is particularly troubling because your yard and home are at the northwest quadrant, and then at the southwest quadrant is where there is the cemetery for Lyonsville with the retaining wall. And so trying to balance the needs for both quadrants there, as we refine things, we always look for opportunities to narrow up the footprint that we have, to minimize any impacts to the extent possible to a property like yours, but then also for all the properties along the corridor. So as we refine things, the amount of potential that is shown on the exhibits right now is preliminary, and if we, as much as we can to dial that in and refine that, that's always the goal, because the county and the village never want to acquire property that they don't need to acquire.
Really? Yeah. I don't believe that for a second. Not for a second. They do what they want to do. Tell me about the property that is on the east side, the northeast side. Why can't some of that be purchased? I think the state owns that?
The state of Illinois owns that property. I have made inquiries about the village acquiring it. They have told me time and time again, no. I will keep on trying it. I would like to have the village acquire it only for maintenance, because the state of Illinois does a horrible job of maintaining it, and the village typically will go in there every couple of years and get rid of some of the buckthorn and dethatch it and do the improvements. It's the village, not the state of Illinois. So I would love to have that parcel. I've inquired several times and I've always been told no.
Well, Sandy's telling you no to her backyard.
Yeah, right. There you go. Not available.
Next is Amy Jo Wittenberg.
Good evening. My name is Amy Jo Wittenberg. I'm at 6120 Timber Ridge Court, and thank you for taking maybe 2 questions shortly from myself. One is pretty short. It has to do with the Indian Head Park Master Sidewalk Plan. I'm hoping all of you have seen that plan that was on the website, and I had the distinct privilege to vote on that plan as a village trustee in 2019. And I voted on a plan that had 2 5-foot sidewalks that we put in the IHP master plan that's been on the website since 2019, and our mayor has stated at the beginning of each meeting about the sidewalk plan. So what I would like to ask is why the village and our trustees that were in that meeting, over 30 meetings have taken place between the village, Strand, and the county. 30 meetings. I read all the minutes. They were very detailed. Thank you for doing those. Why weren't we discussing an alternate plan for sidewalk on both sides? If that was the plan we voted on, why did we end up with a 10-foot multi-use multi-use path on the west side of the street, which is specified in the both plans, 3-lane and 5-lane, and a 5-foot sidewalk on the east side of the street? If we're trying to lessen the encroachment on our neighbors and make things good for everyone, take a 360 approach on this, why wouldn't we have asked the county for an alternate plan for what we asked for originally, which was 2 sidewalks and a 3-lane plan? So I would like to understand that the people at that meeting, which had been the mayor and John DeRocher and Sean Kennedy most times, and the Strand and the county, I know things change. We all know things are dynamic. Why wouldn't we just say, by the way, we had a plan we voted on, and we just want you to know that that was important to us, so make sure you accommodate that plan in your alternatives. Western Springs has a sidewalk and a sidewalk, not on every side of the street, in their plan that they did, that the county said a complete street was north of 55th and had sidewalk street. So could you answer that, please?
I will. Yes, we had a sidewalk plan, and we called it a sidewalk plan, and in all, is a sidewalk, not a path, a sidewalk. The county likes pathways. We will take that into consideration with our comments to the county. We call it a sidewalk plan. The board and Planning and Zoning Commission voted on it. And if it's a 5-foot wide sidewalk, so be it. We will send that comment to the county also.
Thank you. So instead of a 10-foot multi-use path, you would consider a 5-foot sidewalk. I think that accommodates our students going to school and may not encroach as much on our citizens. Thank you.
From an engineering perspective, a 5-foot sidewalk does not accommodate bicycles. We need to take that into consideration. I'm talking about what the engineers are telling me. It is something we will let the county know about.
All right, Amy, if you don't mind, I want to add, so this started, as John said in the beginning, in 2018, the village board unanimously approved a Invest in Cook grant application. And that's where we got, I believe it was $68,000 in funding, and we put in $20,000. And in that request, we asked for the feasibility of a sidewalk and pathway, bicycle path, pedestrian path along Wolf Road. So again, that was approved in 2018. Then in July of 2019, the village board unanimously approved an IGA, an intergovernment agreement with Cook County to look at a phase 1 for Wolf Road that included sidewalk and bicycle paths. So those are online, you can look at them. Then because of that was approved in August. We started talking about it in July. Then because the project was extended to 79th Street on January of 2020, the village board approved an ordinance, same intergovernment agreement, but the distance was extended to 79th Street. So there were 3 opportunities that the village board unanimously approved looking at bicycle path, pedestrian path, and sidewalks. And as John said, we did approve that. And I think looking back, a mistake we made was to call it a sidewalk master plan. We did not call it a pedestrian path plan or a bicycle path plan or whatever else options it was. This was called a sidewalk master plan. And then when we approved those intergovernmental agreements in 2019 and 2020, we weren't smart enough to come back and update this and say now the sidewalk plan has been added with pedestrian path or bicycle path. So we did not do that. I'm sure all of you agree that we make a lot of mistakes on the board. And looking back, I will say that was one, to call it a master sidewalk plan and then keep it a master sidewalk plan. But we did take board action several times.
One other short question. This has to do with trucks, and I know this probably will come up in other questions, so I'll try to be quick. There has been law changes with trucking. To make a long story short, I can show you the websites that talks about this whole subject. A 67-foot truck cannot make a right turn onto Wolf from Plainfield, or a safe turn onto Joliet Road from Wolf. The turning radius of the truck cannot make it safely. You've probably seen this when a truck can't do that. With both of these plans, the 3 and the 5 lane, a 65-foot truck will be able to make a safe turn, I believe, because it's the law now. It's a law that they have to build the road that way.
Amy, is there a question in there?
Yes.
This is a question and answer session.
The question is that we have to be assured with these new laws that we can control what trucks go into what areas of our village. If we are putting pedestrian and multi-use paths in, we have to ensure the safety of everybody. How is the village going to protect that? There are specific signs and specific restrictions that the village can put on these roads to prohibit the size of these trucks coming up. So we want to make sure that we have a proactive and very fastidious approach from Strand to understand how you're going to protect us and make sure that we do not have permitted overweight and oversized trucks, how we're going to have semis turning into Old Town and not able to turn around, because we've seen this, and how you're going to be able to help us through signage or ordinances to keep the trucks from using this as a through street. Because the county wants to decrease the trip times for all of these delivery and logistics companies. They're getting paid big bucks to do it. So if you can answer that.
The question has to do with truck traffic, specifically on Wolf Road. The answer is we will design, or the engineers will design the road in accordance with their practices. We are not anticipating additional traffic, truck traffic specifically, going north on Wolf Road. No, CMAP, the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency, does not predict this either. Remember, with essentially Plainfield Road not being changed to 5 lanes, nor Wolf Road being 5 lanes, we are not anticipating additional truck traffic, especially going north on Plainfield Road, or on Wolf Road. If the board has the ability to impose truck restrictions, we will. But it's a county road, and it's their jurisdiction. But if we can, we will.
Because it's legal now for the 65-foot to take the road.
As I said, if the village can, we will.
Thank you.
If you build it, they will come.
Hillary Kashik?
Hi, my name is Hillary Poshak, and I live at 6509 Black Hawk Trail. My backyard backs up to Wolf Road, so we will be impacted. My question is, what safety precautions will be put in place for us residents that live along Wolf, and have fences been considered? That's it. Oh. My question relates to what safety precautions will be put in place for those of us residents that live along Wolf, and have fences been considered?
We will take safety absolutely into consideration. There is some concern, especially if we have a pathway and how it will impact you turning into your driveway. It's something we have to consider.
I'm a backyard.
But still, there are people who have driveways on Wolf Road, so safety is being considered. At one time, there was a village survey that we did about fencing on Wolf Road, It is something I think the board is willing to consider. I think that we will look at that in the future, but that is part of the overall landscaping plan. But safety of people on Wolf Road is of paramount concern, and I promise you we will be looking at that.
Nicholas Vesci. Nicholas?
My name is Nick Vassie. I live in Indian Head Park. One of my questions, I had some clarification on it, so I'm going to just submit it as a comment. But the other one is, I'm here to talk about the bike lane. I'm an avid biker. I think it's a great activity for people. I'm trying to understand what is the value of a bike lane that starts at Joliet Road and ends at Plainfield Road? There's one just like that on, is it Brainerd? It's useless. And I'm trying to understand, where are these bikers going to come from? And if they're coming from all these places, are you guys going to build a parking lot to accommodate the cars? Where are these bikers going to come from?
It is part of the county's long-term. Okay, the question has to do with bike lanes and pathways. It seems that we're building a bridge to nowhere. The county's long-term plan is to have bicycle corridor on Wolf Road, connecting to other bicycle corridors in the county. It's part of their long-range plan.
And one other point of clarification on that is that the in the two alternatives as presented right now, the shared use path does not only start at Joliet Road and go up to Plainfield. It extends for the entirety of the project limits, the 2.3 mile long project limit. So it goes from 79th Street up to Plainfield Road, and I believe as part of the Plainfield Road project, they're also proposing a shared use path as part of that. So
To the bridge. To the
294 bridge.
Okay, next we have Joseph Consolo.
Joseph Consolo, 145 Cascade Drive. Neither one of the alternatives really exactly show how close this finished street will be to the homes on the other side. Exactly how close will the sidewalk and how close will the bike path be to the homes? How can we possibly do anything when the residents living on both sides of Wolf Road have no idea what the impact and how close these are going to be to their homes? They're entitled to that.
Yep. So the question was for how will residents know specifically how close the finished road or sidewalk or shared use path will be to the backyards along at people's homes. And I'd say the footprint that is shown right there on these exhibits is to scale right now, but again, the specific refinements of it are going to be made after we move forward into the preferred alternative, and we'll be able to say specifically at your property, the edge of the sidewalk will be X amount of feet from your backyard. But the one thing that I would like to emphasize is that for much of the section between Joliet and Plainfield Road, the county already owns 100 feet wide. So 50 feet from the center of the road right now, that is dedicated county right-of-way already. So even if there is landscaping or trees or anything like that within there that may seem to be property of the individual property owners, it is dedicated county right-of-way. So
Is that true between Joliet and Plainfield as well? You said between Joliet and Plainfield?
between Joliet and Plainfield, much of that is 100 feet wide as it is. 50 on each side of the roadway. So for your specific property, you can't say right now, but that's what we want to refine, and then at the second. public meeting can specifically give answers to that exactly.
All right.
Danielle Shveska, Hiawatha Lane. Sorry, can you guys hear me? No. Danielle Shveska, Hiawatha Lane. Sorry, I've been talking all day. So my question is, with the addition of the multi-use path and the sidewalk, what additional safety provisions are we putting in to allow our children to use those safely? For example, additional lighting, perhaps some crossing arms for kids going to school, or any like side rails. I just kind of want to know, what am I going to have to deal with as a parent to keep my kids safe? Please.
Yep, so the question was just in relation to the sidewalk and shared use path as they're proposed, what specific safety precautions would be incorporated to protect the users of those facilities. And I'd say it's too early to say specifically what those are, but as part of the alternatives that we have proposed, there are additional marked crossings across the intersections and then also across Wolf Road, so that there are dedicated areas that will be further refined with signage and other things that would be coordinated with the county to further identify that these specific areas are crossing for where pedestrians are going to be to increase safety. So there is one right now in existing that is being upgraded at the Heritage Center. So
it's been upgraded.
Okay. So something like that would be what we would look to have at places along the corridor.
Okay, I'm just curious because I feel like as a parent that still poses some concerns because we still have cars that blast through there as it is. So something like a crossing arm, or perhaps, like I said, guardrails, especially if you're moving the sidewalks closer to the street. I would ask if you could consider those.
Yep, absolutely. And a lot of those can be driven by other things as well, such as grading for what is behind a proposed shared use path. What does the grading look like up or down to whatever's behind it? So if there's an area that has a steep drop off, that is something that could be considered so that someone doesn't fall off their bike and tumble down the hill or something of that nature.
Thank you.
Next I have Joanne and/or John Gallagher.
No.
John Gallagher, 6483 Indian Head Trail. I'll repeat the question for the audience. I'm on the west side of Wolf Road, and water coming down on Wolf Road to my property has been a problem for years. I spent a lot of money with an engineering plan to plan the drainage in my backyard just to prevent water. What is the plan going to do to ensure that this doesn't happen under either one of these alternatives? Because frankly, these alternatives look like a dead deal.
John, could you state your address again, please?
6483 Indian Head Trail. John Gallagher, 6483 Indian Head Trail. I back up to Wolf Road on the west side of the street. Water coming off of Wolf Road into my property has been a problem for years. I'm a 40-plus year resident. Spent a lot of money with the engineering and architectural drawing plan to prevent that, to have a lot of extra drainage. I still get a little bit of water when we get heavy rain. And I want to know what the plan is going to do to protect my property, and can I have something in writing that says they will protect it?
So right now with the existing drainage, it's an open ditch. So everything all the rainwater that falls on Wolf Road runs off into the ditch. In both proposals that we have right now, it has curb and gutter. So anything that's on the roadway, the water will be captured in the gutter and then be drained into a storm sewer system underground underneath the roadway. So even though there would be additional, additional area that's no longer grass, that's path or sidewalk or an additional lane, that all the water that would be falling there would be captured in this new system that would be underground underneath the roadway. So it wouldn't be additional pavement essentially that is running off into a property such as your own. So all that additional rainwater would be captured in this new storm sewer system underground the road.
Where's that directed? Is that going to tie in directly to the existing infrastructure of drainage here?
All right, we appreciate the questions. There's still a lot on here. If we have time at the end, we can open it up for questions. Carol, please.
This is probably an adjunct to what Wittenhouse was talking about. Wittenberg. I wanted to know, you said that there were studies about the traffic, trucks coming through. What, or if we can direct, you know, how much tonnage, the size of them coming through? And you said that there was something you could do, but you didn't guarantee it. It was like, we'll look at it.
I would think this.
Okay. And
Truck traffic.
other towns, adjacent towns, have those rules. Why can't we?
Question was enforcement of truck traffic and overweight trucks specifically. Joliet Road is a state road, and so IDOT controls the weight limits in truck traffic on Joliet Road.
Right.
Wolf Road's a county road, so it has county jurisdiction. If we can do it, we will.
Is
I don't know.
Western Springs a county line too?
Wolf Road in Western Springs is a county road. It's Wolf Road.
They don't have their trucks
All right,
come to
so
there.
you're asking a question I don't have the answer to specifically. If we can, we will. Our chief of police, Mike Kernick, headed up the traffic unit regarding this when he was in the village of Willowbrook. He knows what to do. If we can, we will.
No guarantee.
If we can, I promise you we will.
Next we have David Braz. Okay. Dale Holmquist.
Hi, I'm Dale Holmquist, 11131 Indian Woods Drive, and I have a couple of questions. I just am really concerned specifically about stormwater, groundwater, and drainage issues that this plan presents. With the ongoing expansion of 294 in combination with any widening of Wolf Road, it's going to create stormwater and groundwater issues for those living near Wolf Road and Flag Creek. Old Town and 45 acres still have unresolved drainage issues. And we expect more with climate change and global warming. Every storm is bigger than the last storm. What is your plan to protect our investments and guarantee that our homes are not devalued and not thrown into a floodplain? Some homes are very close to one, for instance, Indian Woods. Are you bringing in MWRD earlier in this process to ensure that the village is not surprised with project cost overages like in Acacia? How will you handle the excessive water without dumping into Flag Creek or creating floodplains? Is FEMA involved in this planning? You have to honor the EPA Clean Water Act because it's the law. And we don't want to be thrown back into a floodplain. This needs to be paramount in any plans. I see a lot of drainage issues coming forth with these widening of the roads, with these pedestrian paths, with these sidewalks. So please address this.
You said you had multiple questions?
I'm sorry?
You had multiple questions? Or is that the only question you had? I was just going to answer that if you were going to move before moving on to the other
No,
one.
there were several thrown in here.
Okay. Would you like me to answer that first one first?
All of them.
Well, first one and then move on to the
Correct.
next one. I want to be able to remember all of them so I can make sure to address everything. Yes. So basically, the question just related to more about the drainage and stormwater and coordination with the agencies such as the EPA and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. So those are ones that we are engaging with at the onset of the project, and the information that we're using for, such as the stormwater data and for what we're kind of designing these systems to, those have been updated by the agencies that issues those, so that it is accounting for things that are changing in a changing world. So, but just from a broad strokes perspective, one way that we could handle the increase in drainage and the additional stormwater would be like an oversized storm sewer pipe that's within the roadway. So it's not necessarily a new detention area. That could be one option for how we address all of the increased water that is going to be not sinking directly into the ground, but is going to be on the pavement and then running off.
So you're saying you'll never dump into Flag Creek?
Ultimately, the systems do make their way to Flag Creek.
That's the problem.
And that's just based on topography and where the water is going. Right now, the water ultimately makes its way to Flag Creek.
I'll forward you some pictures of a rain that occurred last fall, where down by Indian Woods near 7300 South on Wolf Road, you could almost, the water was 1 foot from street level. 1 foot. I don't know if the village ever sees that, if anybody from Public Works comes down and photographs this, but you need to be aware of this. If you throw our homes into a floodplain, you know, there's going to be a price to pay.
I would appreciate seeing those pictures if you could forward them to the team.
I will.
Thank you.
I'm going to do a follow-up from Matt's answer. The village is aware that we have a stormwater management issue, especially in the north end of 45 acres. We've commissioned an engineering study to start looking at that. I also know that we have a stormwater management issue at the intersection of Wolf and...
Could you speak up a little bit, please?
Thank you. We know that there's a stormwater management issue in 45 acres, especially in the northern part of 45 acres. We've commissioned an engineering study to start looking at that. So that is part of our budgeting process. It's ongoing. I also know that there's a stormwater management issue at the intersection of Wolf and Joliet. The plan will be, if we can accommodate the storm sewers and have storm sewers instead of overland flow, that we can help alleviate the flooding issue at the intersection of Wolf and Joliet. I also am aware of the stormwater management issue further south by you. Public Works is aware of it. That's going to be part of the bigger picture with our stormwater management study in the village. As far as the floodplain goes, the floodplain is established by FEMA. And they control the designation for the floodplain. The village participates in the National Floodplain Insurance Program. We have to follow very strict guidelines when we allow development to happen in the floodplain or near it with compensatory storage, and we have rules that we have to follow. Otherwise, we put the village at risk of losing our participation in the floodplain program, which will impact your homeowner's insurance. So we are very well aware of that.
But the point is, all this excessive water, Matt just said it's eventually going to make it to Flag Creek.
It will.
Which could ultimately affect the floodplain.
However, with any development, we can't increase the rate of how fast the water gets to you or the total volume. So that has to be taken into consideration when they're designing the stormwater management system. Strand Engineering is extremely good at doing this kind of work.
Okay, I have one extra question for Matt. Is dumping this water into Flag Creek acceptable within the law for the Clean Water Act?
Darcy, can you?
So it's required for us within the law to follow the existing drainage patterns. So the water that is going into Flag Creek and the areas that are tributary to Flag Creek, it's required by us, by the law, for us to follow that and keep it going into Flag Creek.
But the law
So,
doesn't say bring more water down to the creek.
as John mentioned, we're not allowed to increase those flows. So what Matt said is we'll be putting them in larger storm sewers or some other ditches to retain detention basins, to retain that water prior to it being
And that's
released
what we're
into
looking
Flag
for,
Creek.
is assurances that this is going to happen. And you're
Yes.
not going to be creating groundwater, drainage, and floodplain issues.
So the drainage will be designed by Strand. It is reviewed very thoroughly. The county will make a very thorough review because they are responsible for the ultimate maintenance of this project. And then also the DOT has the ability to review that. Depending on the ultimate scope of the work, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources would also have a review of that.
Okay, you all just need to understand that we all have invested in this community. We've lived here a long time, we've purchased multiple homes, we pay our taxes, and we expect you to listen to us. Please hear what we're saying tonight. Thank you.
Pat or Jack DeMars?
Hi, I'm Pat DeMars. I live on Indian Head Trail. And my question, well, I've got a couple things. We talked about, we know that we're a tree city, that we've got beautiful trees, and they're all mature. So what kind of landscaping are you going to be putting in? It's not going to be 30-year-old trees. It's going to be little stumps, and most of us won't be around to watch them grow to 30-year mature trees. Correct? Yes? I mean, you're going to be putting in little, nothing equivalent to what's there now. Correct?
Correct.
Matt nodded yes. Another question, the studies that you did on the traffic, were those studies done pre-COVID?
So with the traffic that we have started with, there were a couple different data sources that went into it. Some of the counts that we did were during COVID. Some of the counts that we did that were provided to us as part of another engineering study that was done by the tollway. Those were provided to us as well. So we were able to combine the data sets, but also look at how much they would have been off, factoring if there was a reduction in traffic due to less people traveling during COVID. So there was a very extensive process and coordination that we had to do with the county's in-house traffic engineers to get their buy-in on how we were able to, what was our starting point for the data and how were we factoring that into the future. So we very much looked into that and were very thoughtful about how we were taking the data that we acquired during the time that we acquired it and making sure that we had a good baseline for moving forward.
I'm not sure you actually answered whether it was pre-COVID.
It was a combination.
It was a combination. Okay, so I think everybody is aware that traffic is down considerably now, even after COVID, because people are all working from home. People are not going downtown into the office. They're not driving. Traffic is down considerably. Anybody that lives along Wolf can tell you that because we see the traffic that's not there.
So the question is, did COVID have an impact on traffic, and are we using pre-COVID data or COVID data or post-COVID data? The data that Matt has been referring to is almost identical to pre-COVID data. Why do I know this? Because I look at the Illinois Department of Transportation website when I try to market the village to companies to have them come into the village. So I know what the traffic is on Wolf Road. I know what the traffic is on Joliet Road. I know what the traffic is on Wolf Road south of Joliet Road near the tollway. And I have this information written down that I send to companies that have been doing this before COVID to say, come to Indian Head Park, because we have 10,000 cars a day on Wolf Road. We have 8,000 cars south on Wolf Road. We have 15,000 cars a day, so to speak, on Joliet Road. We do this as part of our marketing, so yes, we're using pre-COVID data, and there wasn't much of a change pre-COVID versus COVID.
Okay, the 10,000 cars that you're stating, what time, like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or
I don't
20?
know, because I was using the Illinois Department of Transportation's website, and they have traffic counts listed, daily traffic counts.
They're for
Okay.
the whole day, 24-hour traffic.
24-hour traffic, okay. Well, I think some of us on Wolf Road would probably debate those numbers, because I don't think there's 10,000 cars that are going back and forth every day. But,
There will be with 5 lanes.
well, no. No, there won't be, because there won't be 5 lanes. Okay, thank you.
All right, next we have Jill Cox. And Jill, before you start, I just want to remind, we've got about a half an hour of the room left. There's still a number of questions, so if we can keep it to one, to move along, we'll make sure we get everybody's answered. Thank you.
Hello, I am one of those unfortunate people in Acacia that faces Wolf Road currently. Right now, I feel like I live in a nice cul-de-sac. There's no way in heck I would have bought the house on a busy street. I bought it in a cul-de-sac. My kids have been there since they were 6 and 9. I've been there 10 years. They've gone to school on their own for 10 years, or when they were in school. Never a problem. Avid runners, avid bikers, avid walkers. One of my questions is for Tom. You're a realtor, correct? When you're advising people where to buy houses, do houses on busy streets sell slower than houses in cul-de-sacs?
All right, so the question was about how fast houses sell, or maybe the value of houses on busy streets. Houses will sell as fast as they are priced. So if a house is priced up here, it'll take forever. Well, okay. So if you price a house at an appropriate price, it will sell at an appropriate time. So is a house on a busy street worth the same as a house a block in? If they're the same? No, because the house on the busier street is on a busy street.
Correct, and mine used to not be on a busy street, and now it will be on a busy street. The other piece is, what just want to be clear, is what it's sounding like is everything you're doing is like a done deal. Nobody's putting on the table, let's not do it. Everything we're talking about, we'll talk about it next time. Like obviously my concern is buffers, what's gonna go up there. People have concerns about drains and all that. Everybody has very valid questions of what's gonna happen. You're asking us to sit until next spring while you keep moving this project along, and then you're gonna tell us, oh yeah, this is what we're gonna do. I wanna know how we just stop the project. Is there anything we can do to just stop it? Will the board listen to us if there's enough of us that say, stop it?
It's a county project.
But you can stop can you stop what you started?
The issue is, if we want Wolf Road reconstructed, there's a process that the county goes through.
I understand. What if we just want it paved and leave it at that?
Yes.
The money you're spending, $800,000 allegedly for landscaping down the road, whatever you're spending on this, how much does it cost to pave a road?
I have no idea, because pavement prices vary, especially in today's market with fuel prices the way they are. If you want to put a stop to the project, put it in your comment form and submit it.
I did, so did my children, and my son. He used to be on debate, so he did a really good one.
Frank Lesh.
My name is Frank Lesh. I live at 6411 Indian Head Court. My house, like John's and Gail's, back up to Wolf Road. the question I have is, because of this study that you did about projecting future traffic, unless I'm missed something, there's no more land to develop north or south along Wolf Road. We got going north, you got Western Springs, and you got the after Ogden Avenue, you've got the Forest Preserve. South of us, what's there? So why would we need to expand when there should be no more traffic? And then I think, John, you mentioned that the IDOT or whatever doesn't anticipate big trucks coming up and down Wolf Road. So that's even more reason why we shouldn't be considering expanding it for that.
All right, the question is, things aren't going to change as far as traffic goes because the area is fully developed. So we're not really going to see an increase in traffic, so to speak. We've been saying that all along. Why are we doing this? Well, one, the board has a goal of being able to move pedestrians from the north end of the village to the south and ultimately east and west. Wolf Road does need to be reconstructed. It doesn't meet current standards for lane width or some other areas. We have some stormwater management issues. We've addressed stormwater issues in your lot. We know that.
Still not been satisfied.
I don't understand that. And with the engineering and the stormwater management system, your problem or the problems along Wolf Road will be greatly alleviated because we're going to be going from open ditches, which is very prone to having people fill in or mess with, to put it all underground in piping. We expect fully that stormwater management issues coming from Wolf Road will be alleviated.
Okay. Well, just as a follow-up to that, if you don't mind, if that's the case, and you guys know that this has been going on for years, John mentioned for years, ever since they improved Wolf Road 20-some years ago and raised it, I've gotten even more damage than I had before, and I've spent thousands of dollars trying to correct it. Why can't we do something about that now instead of waiting to have to expand the road?
We've actually already commissioned an engineering study, it's not through Strand, it's through another firm, to look at the stormwater management issue in 45 acres.
When?
It's ongoing now. We've already started, we've commissioned the study, we've made some payments on it. We're waiting for it. It should be happening in the next, well, actually, we should have gotten the data already by now, but we should be expecting it shortly.
Next, and again, I apologize, Lee, I can't make it the last name, but it looks like it N-C-A-N-D-A.
Lee Kokanda, Ashbrook. Just two things. How many years do you predict that Wolf Road is going to be tore up for if this goes through? 5 years, 10 years?
The question was, how long would the construction of it last?
Yes. Which we know, nothing against it, but what you tell it is not going to be the bottom line. That's all right, but go on.
A project of this caliber, we've seen it in the past be accomplished in 2 construction seasons. So
2 years?
2 years.
Would you put that in writing? No. The other question I have is, I love living here in Indian Head Park, so does my wife. How is expanding Wolf Road going to make life any better for any of us? What is it going to do? What is it? I owned my own business for 20 years, and all I can say is if I ran a municipality, wherever it is, the way it's done in this country, I would have been lucky if I went in business a year instead of 20 years. You guys spend money. Illinois doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And we're doing this? And why are you frowning at me? That's what I want to know.
I will address your statement.
You address me then. Let us all
I will
know.
address your statement. The
If I
question
looked at
is,
customers the way you looked at me, I would have had no customers.
I understand.
How's that sound?
It
No,
is-
you don't
the
understand.
question
You
is-
don't understand shit.
Village finances.
Go on, I'm listening.
I'm the village administrator. I'm the chief budget officer for the village. In the last 7 years, our bond rating has improved 2 notches. Unheard of in Illinois for a non-home rule municipality. We got better. We have a balanced budget. We have a cash surplus. We have an investment policy that dictates that we have 4 months of operating cash on hand at any given moment. We ended the fiscal year with a very positive cash balance so we can roll over projects rollover funding for projects in the future. We will have a balanced budget for the next 5 years. It's in our budget document that was just approved by the village board at the April meeting. It's online. We have a positive cash flow. We're in good fiscal condition, and our bond rating is about as good as we can get for a non-home rule community.
You didn't answer my question. I wanted to know how this is going to make life better for us. How? Answer the question.
The funding for Wolf Road does not come from the Village of Indian Head Park. It will be paid for by the county because it's within the county jurisdiction. What was
The benefits.
the benefits will be a better road, improved stormwater management, and the ability for pedestrians to traverse north and south on Wolf Road and ultimately east-west on Wolf Road. Safe routes to school and overall improvement for the village. We'll have stormwater, safer routes, pedestrian access. And Wolf Road right now is in pretty horrible condition. It's only going to get worse.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. Ed O'Brien, please. Ed O'Brien.
How long would it take?
It's in 2 years.
It's been covered.
All right. Margaret Brennan.
Hi, good evening. Margaret Brennan, Arrowhead Court. So I have a couple things. First of all, thank you for looking into this. I've been a resident for 17 years. My kids walked to Highlands. They played Frogger on Wolf Road. So I appreciate sidewalks. My question is, in looking at what you've talked about, first of all, back of curb to back of curb will be 100 feet is county, right? So you're looking at less than that, even at a 3-lane area. I mean, it would be 90 feet approximately?
Though the 100 feet is what is the land the county already owns.
Right.
The actual roadway itself, we have proposed right now 11-foot wide lanes.
Okay.
So 3 11-foot wide lanes would be 33 feet plus 2 feet of curb and gutter on each side, let's call it. So 37 feet for the roadway.
All right. So then my next question is, with what you're talking about when you're having your designs put out next spring, that would be the beginning of any sort of discussion if there is any need for any sort of eminent domain on the part of the county for taking anybody's property at all. Is that a fair timetable? I'm just trying to figure out the timetable when people would be apprised of that and have a comment and have their opportunity to contest any lawsuit that would have to be brought by the county or the state to obtain any property that the county doesn't already own.
So the question is, when would the land acquisition process begin? And that would be after, first we would complete the phase 1 study, and that would establish what properties we would need to execute. And then we would have to identify the funding, okay? I'm sorry, I apologize for using the term execute. Then we would have to identify the funding, and I think I want to elaborate on one of the questions that was earlier as far as construction timing. That would be, the funding depends on, the project might be constructed in segments. It might be a north segment or a south segment, so that still has not been determined. We have no funding for, right now, the design of this, and so when we would get to design, that's after this phase 1, that's when we would identify in detail, that's when we would talk about the landscaping plans, that's when we would identify in detail the right-of-way needs as far as plats. You know, we would develop plats, and then that's when that discussion would come. We have not identified funding for design, so that timing isn't necessarily established yet. But the goal in moving forward with the project, and of course, you know, if that's the conclusion that we don't move forward, you know, that's still to be seen, right? But that goal would be, as moving forward, we would come up with those funds for engineering design, and then work on those plats, and then start negotiating with residents. And there would be appraisals, there would be reviews of those appraisals, and then there would be negotiations.
And that's only if it's necessary. It's possible with the land the county already owns that there may not even be any significant or any eminent domain action taken.
Correct.
All right, can I follow up one little thing? I'm just trying to get a visual of what is 37 feet versus existing Wolf Road is how much into, you know,
Yep.
kind of the gullies on the sides.
Yep, so the question was, you know, visual for right now, what is Wolf Road? I believe Wolf Road has 12-foot wide lanes and then about a 3-foot shoulder on each side. So that would be approximately 30 feet existing for from the edge of the shoulder to the edge of the shoulder. And then with the curb and gutter and the additional center turn lane for the 3-lane alternative, that would be 37 feet.
Okay.
Plus or minus.
So 7 more feet plus. give or take.
Plus or minus, yes.
All right, thank you.
So 3.5 left side.
I didn't get it. Well, how much would the sidewalk add then if we, and the path, would that be another 8 feet on each side or?
So the standard width for a sidewalk is the curb and gutter and then a 3-foot buffer and then a 5-foot sidewalk. So that would be an additional 8 feet for the sidewalk.
Do they have to be 5 feet? Does
That's the.
is it required to be 5 feet or it could be a 3-foot sidewalk?
5-foot sidewalk is the standard design. The minimum is 4 feet, but and the path would be 10 foot at a standard. Plus a buffer, correct. I'll do the math and get back to you in a second.
So next, John, is it Hadley? Pass, all right, John. Meg? Tony?
Yes.
Before I start, I'd like to suggest that you ask the next 2 people who will be asking questions to maybe stand along the side. I think it'll go faster. How about that? Okay. My name is Meg Pokorny. I live in Ashbrook. And my question has to do, excuse me, I just need my glasses. My question has to do with the whole sidewalk thing. I would like confirmation from the board members sitting here that they have voted 3 times to put in sidewalks and a multi-use path, which I understand to be 10 feet. They voted 3 times, so that will be part of this project, even though they can obviously see that that will sacrifice the mature trees and the greenscape along Wolf Road. And even though there's nothing like that in Western Springs beyond Plainfield Road. So is that your confirmation? You made that decision and voted 3 times. That's what you said.
The question is, the board voted 3 times for this project. The board voted 3 times for the study to investigate. We don't know the end game yet. That's what the board voted on. The study is a phase 1 study, it's a feasibility study, an optimization study. We're at that phase down. We haven't even finished that yet. We won't have that finished until the spring of next year.
But part of your study is a sidewalk, a new sidewalk on the east side of Wolf Road and a large multi-use path 10 feet wide on the west side of Wolf Road.
It is a goal. It is a goal. How we get there, we don't know yet. That's what the engineering study is all about. And the public hearings and the process we're going through now. Nothing has been decided yet.
I hear you, but if you hear from the people of Indian Head Park that they don't want these sidewalks to nowhere.
I want them.
Then I strongly recommend, please, get your public comments in either through the pages that we have here for you to submit, or through the web portal.
And you made that decision knowing you were losing your trees.
Please, the question is, we made that decision knowing we're going to lose trees. We made the decision for a study. We're looking at it.
Yes, I
They
know.
haven't made that decision yet. Things happen, trees get replaced. We're a tree city, we are committed to that.
Next, we have Pete, is it Madaro? And then, based on Meg's recommendation, I'll also let Ed Kometz know that he's next after that.
Hi, I'm Pete Madeo, 7141 Wolf Road. And I've just got a question about the grading. How do you determine the grade of the road? Because if I look out my house, the road's probably 2.5, 3 feet above my lawn. So I'm just wondering if there's a retention wall of some sort, or, and this may be too soon to ask this, maybe for the next meeting, but.
Yep. So I can just answer that question in general for. The question was just the proposed grade of the road. How is that determined? So in general, the cheapest way to reconstruct a road is to keep it at the same elevation of the road, because that's less material that either has to be hauled out or brought in. So that's at least the starting point for looking at the profile of the road. But if there are areas where it needs to be lowered or raised to balance out the limits of where we're matching in on each side of the road, there's tweaks like that we make. Or if there are certain areas where we need clearance above storm sewer that's underneath the road.
Yeah, because I'm right next to the Wolf, the bridge there.
Oh, at Flat Creek?
Flat
Yep.
Creek, yeah.
So in specifically in that area, we've looked at what the hydraulics of what's happening along Flag Creek, and then there's specific requirements of how much clearance there would be between the creek and the bridge. But specifically in that area, there are driveway entrances, I think, in the southwest quadrant, and then the tollway ramp is in the northwest quadrant. So that's kind of balancing everything out. Specifically at the Flag Creek Bridge, we'd look at how much we can raise that up to allow the hydraulics to be increased to allow water to not back up as much on the higher end. But in that particular area, it is a challenging area. But in general, we start with where is the existing road now, and then from there, refine.
One quick question. The diagram, now, like the center of Wolf Road now, are you going equally both ways, or it'll vary, through the project?
So in the area, the question was, will the existing center of Wolf Road be the existing center of any future Wolf Road? So in the area centered around Joliet Road, there is a shift in where the road is.
Right.
And that's because of the retaining wall just outside here at the cemetery. So any improvements that we're making, as we have it proposed right now, is they're being made away from the cemetery wall. So that would be shifted away from the existing alignment of the road, and then north and south we would tie back into where the existing Wolf Road is. But in general, under 55, underneath 294, through Burr Ridge, that's a general policy that is at least a starting point. But
okay. Yes. All right, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
And again, Ed Kometz.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ed Kometz. I live at 6631 Cochise Drive, right here on the corner, right across the street from Sandy and Fred Hayes. We're newer to your community. We're newer to the entire area, so perhaps my questions this evening are maybe a little bit not as well seated as some of you, the rest of you. I'm not making a statement here, but I do want to ask, my first question is, in looking at this process, and I've been paying attention to this is a great community, very united community, actually, and that's in the existence of it. I even researched that in our first choice of even coming here versus Western Springs or Burr Ridge or Elmhurst. My wife Karen's in the back with me. And I sit there and say, knowing that people aren't really understanding what's going on with this. We have two different plans, and I've been perfectly forward saying both these plans are flawed. There's not, yeah, I do have a follow-up question, and I'm going to answer my question, and you allow me time, please.
Well, please ask the question.
I am answering the question. You're interrupting me now. Mr. Metz, you are trying to set me off, and you're not going to. The group here, my question is, as opposed to putting these two plans out, which seem to be flawed, why don't we go back to the drawing board and come up with a plan? This should not be an argument in our community about bike paths and sidewalks and safety of children or anything else. It should be about what fits within the confines of the constraints of the space that we are allowed to be able to build in. Good engineering takes those constraints into place. And I do not feel that either one of these plans match good engineering or the needs, especially knowing that where we're at. So what is it going to take for the board to go back and sit there and say that Plan 2, Plan 3, Plan 4, whatever is up here and right now being presented does not work for our community? And that we are pitting our community against itself, of making people choose whether we have safety for sidewalks and concerns for our children versus the needs and of our property and our residents. That is what is not being considered here. That is not part of any IDOT spec, any CDOT spec, any engineering plan is not being considered here of the human element of our neighbors. And we need the village to go back to the drawing board. Not saying your idea is bad. I'm not saying it's bad at all. I'm not against sidewalks. I'm not against bicycle paths. I'm not for either one. But I do know bad engineering when I see it. I am an experienced construction manager, been doing it 35 years. I will tell you, I have a very successful career at this. This is not good engineering, folks. We need to reject these plans on the face of their merit, not whether we should be choosing bicycle paths for our children or not. Thank you.
Larry Bronco?
My name is Larry Brongle, and I live in Ashbrook. And, you know, I see these plans, but no one's telling me how much, an estimate what all this is going to cost, nor is how the village is going to fund it, pay it.
Okay? The question is, how's the village going to pay for it?
How much is it going to cost first?
An estimate that I had 2 years ago was $14 to $15 million. I don't know what the future costs are. This is a county project. The county will pay for it. They will be looking for federal money or state of Illinois money to help fund it. That's why we had to look at the 5-lane option.
It's still our money.
It is correct. When I say money, I'm only concerned about the village of Indian Head Park. I cannot control the county. I cannot control the state of Illinois. The board of trustees vote, and the president, they vote on the budget for the village of Indian Head Park.
Won't the state have the final say then, if we use their money?
The state will have the final say. We will submit a joint recommendation from the county and the village to IDOT and the FHWA, like they did with Plainfield Road when the village came out, and the village of Western Springs came out in opposition of 5 lanes on Plainfield Road. We sent that to the county, and the residents of the village of Indian Head Park also came out in droves against 5 lanes on Plainfield Road. It worked. The county made a recommendation to IDOT and the FHWA for the non-5-lane road option, and that was adopted by the feds. That's how the project works. So it's not Village of Indian Head Park money, per se. It is county money, and if we can get other people to pay for it, that's what we will do.
So what you're saying, Indian Head Park is not going to pay anything?
However,
except through taxes, probably.
Well, that's controlled by other people. Remember, the county has a limited pot of money also, and hopefully the state does too. The village has committed in the new budget that starts next week, $80,000 a year, long-term, for additional landscaping. It's a goal. We're going to sock that money away. I'll encumber it so it's not available with the cash that we have available for our operating reserves. Remember, we have a 4-month operating reserve for the water and sewer fund and the general fund. We will get reimbursed by the county for anything that we're doing right now. The county reimburses us directly.
Okay.
County reimbursed for landscaping due to the work?
The village has, the county will pay for landscaping to a certain degree. The village has committed more than that. As part of when we were developing the budget for the year, we had goals and we had wishes and we had some excess cash, so to speak. And the board said, we have this amount of money, how are we going to divvy it up for projects? We had a couple different methodologies. We spent a couple board meetings talking about it. And the board voted to pull aside $80,000 to sock away for future road improvements so we can, because for future landscaping improvements. So that when the time comes and it's a big ticket item, we have the cash on hand. We try to save money that we can so we can spend it in the future so we don't have deficit spending. We approve 1 year, but it is in the long-range budget as a projection.
Patrick Ferguson.
Good evening, everybody. Patrick Ferguson. I live at 48 Elmwood Court in Acacia. I'm going to make a couple of comments, and I do have a couple of questions. Don't interrupt me.
Please, sir, this is not comments, this is questions.
Well, on the form, it asked me if I had comments to make at the meeting, so I'm going to make them. Thank you.
You have an opportunity at a board meeting to make comments.
You know what? The board is horrible in their communication to residents. I get my information from the smoke signals. I don't look at your website. Another comment, rather than residents lose their homes, realign Wolf Road at both ends. Take away part of this parking lot. This church is in the process of selling. Nobody knows what's going to end up here. Across the street is vacant. Don't take people's homes. Another suggestion, obviously everybody wants to see a road 3 lanes wide. I'm totally against that. Obviously I don't want 5 lanes. At 2 lanes and a center turn lane, traffic in either direction is only going to drive faster down that road. Why not take that 3rd center lane and create a small boulevard with trees and landscaping and utilize that 3rd lane only at intersections where people need to make a left turn? My other comment, as a former member of this church, I know for a fact this room has a sound system. So obviously it was poor planning, whoever booked this room, to not verify that it worked. We've talked about a project from 79th Street to Plainfield Road. How many people here are from Burr Ridge? Well, not too many.
Wait till they get UPS correct.
Right. So the only way I know what's going on in my town board is when I get crisis emails from my HOA. I am the lead for Acacia Wilshire Greens, for next door neighbor. Any one of you are more than welcome to join our area and use that as a tool to communicate to residents. City Hall falls within my next door neighbor boundaries. Thank you. Oh, no, I apologize. I'm not done. Personally, I think this project should not be stopped.
Please ask a question.
I'm asking.
No, you're not. Ask it.
I think the project should be halted.
Yeah, that's not a question. Please ask a question.
Shut up!
Mr. Ferguson.
No, stop! Stop.
You're being rude.
The project should be halted until the village truly knows what the residents want, and then the project should then move forward. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Jean, I'm sorry, I cannot make out the last name. Maybe Sutherwood?
Oh, Sutherland.
Sutherland. Ask, okay. Kathy. It looks like Bouzios.
Kathy Bouja, 6135 Timber Ridge Court. You said that it was a sidewalk proposed. Because when I came and my head blew off when I saw the schematics of the crap that they have proposed for this little beautiful town. And you came out with this sign, and I asked you, why is that not one of the proposals, Mr. Mayor? And then I was told by Strand that that's not the way the county does it. That's the way they want to do it. And I asked, who wants a bike path? Look, I'll make it short. Go over, people, to Brainerd. Yes. Take a good look. I walked it. There are yellow lines. There are signs all over. And it says motor vehicles every so many feet.
Do you have a question, ma'am?
All kinds of signs. This is what you will get. I asked, could we do a sidewalk? The kids need a sidewalk.
Do you have a question, please?
Okay.
Ma'am.
Let's do a sidewalk.
Stop
Yeah.
interrupting her.
Why did you sell us up the river? Why did you take us 68,000? Why did you sell? Woo! This man did. He admitted it. This man did. He admitted it. Wait, folks. Wait till the people laugh when they see that pathway to nowhere. They will be laughing at us, Burr Ridge, Western Springs, and our houses will tank. The prices. You won't be able to give it away. He's in real estate. He knows it. He should know better. Sold us up the river.
Is there a question?
The question is, why did you take the 68,000? Why, if you are so lucid, you've got money flowing, why didn't you pave the street?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Why did you approach the county to get money? And how many people want a 10-foot bike path with the lines and all the bike signs? How many people came to you? Did any of you do a study? Did any of you kindly come to any of the neighbors off Wolf? Just knock on the door. We're all friendly. Hey, we're thinking about this. Do you have any ideas? But hell no, because you don't want us to know. These people, Strand, this is their job. But you, not you, because I heard you had nothing to do with it. You did. You admitted it. Yeah, pathway, whatever. Well, that's not what I want, and that is not good for the majority of the people. A sidewalk is fair. It is good. Yes. Why'd you sell us up the river? Yes. Why'd you take the money? Why did you approach Cook County? Answer! You want a question? Answer, trustee Metz.
Well, we did not sell you up the river.
Oh, okay. You don't call the 10-foot bike path with all those ugly yellow lines and all that, and then a sidewalk
All
next to
we've
that,
done
and
is a
then
study.
a 50 ROW.
All we've done is facilitate a study that the county has funded.
It's going through, isn't it? Are you trying to tell me that it's not gonna go through?
We have no idea.
You didn't do a study for nothing. Did you not take 68,000 from Cook County? You think they're gonna leave that for free?
I'm not trying to say.
Let's move on to the
You
next
don't
question.
understand anything.
Let's move on to the next question.
Kathy, how big are the trees along Brainerd?
Yeah. Hey, my trees are 20-foot spruces. You gonna pay me to replace those? I have 3 of them. Twice we redid our lawn. You sold us up the river. And you should know better.
Is it possible for the village to take ownership of Wolf Road from the county?
Mike, do you not have a question? Was it already asked?
No, nobody answered that, and you all.
It's not possible.
make my
Andy, I got this.
brain spin up.
That was
Why is it not possible?
It's asked the, you want to try to.
We want to wrap this up real fast. It is not possible. The county would love us to take Wolf Road. It would be financially disastrous to do that.
Has anyone done a
Patrick, thank you very much. Please submit your comments in writing, or your question.
I'm disabled and can't write, so you got my mouth.
So I may have missed one, so we have one last question that I'm gonna let this young lady ask.
Next time, book to the hall for a longer period of time. The church is bankrupt, they welcome an additional 2 hours of rent.
Hi, I'm Shannon Orlando. I live at 6516 Blackhawk Trail on the short stretch of Blackhawk that's parallel to Wolf. I know that there was a question asked about the possibility of fences, and I know in the past the board has been relatively unwilling to open that discussion or door about fences in the community. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about this is early on. There's there's a lot of things up for grabs. Is there any possibility that you guys would, I guess, potentially open the door on the fence policy in tandem with this discussion of the road? I just feel like with people that have yards that back up to Wolf, it can't be like an afterthought. We need to know where the fences stand, and kind of where. I don't think that could be like maybe there'll be the possibility of fence. I don't think that can be down the road. I think that needs to be more seriously considered up front.
Okay. We did a survey.
The question?
Oh, the question is, would we consider fences along Wolf Road?
Would you consider updating the policy in tandem with this as opposed to waiting as an afterthought to when decisions are made?
Okay. The Shed and Fence Committee wrapped up their work about a year ago, and the village is opposed to fences in the village. However, we acknowledge Wolf Road is different, and I think that the board would be willing to look at fencing or some other type of thing, something along Wolf Road. It is for consideration, and it's been discussed.
Especially if you're putting a mixed-use path.
I understand. So it is on the table.
Okay.
We already allow fences between residential and commercial zoning districts.
Sure.
So the fence along Joliet Road, kind of loops around Wolf Road, is allowed. The fence behind Walgreens is allowed.
Right.
And then we also have a fencing as a special use process that you have to go through, that we're going through now with a large part of the village. So to answer your question, I think it's a worthy consideration about fencing along Wolf Road. It's up to the board to look at it, but I agree with you.
Okay, thank you.
If I can add to that, so we mentioned earlier about village goals. Every year the board tries to set goals. One of the ones that was discussed this year was saving $1 million for landscaping and possibly fencing along Wolf Road. As we discussed earlier, we've only allocated $80,000 for this year. But so it has been discussed, it has not been approved. Don't want to make anything along that. So it's something we've talked about. And I want to go back one or two people. There was a question about have we talked to the residents. Recently, the village did a survey, the first survey done in many years in the village, and 71% of the respondents said they would support the efforts by Cook County to build bicycle infrastructure and sidewalks along Wolf Road.
And how many of those surveys were returned?
So we can talk about how that survey was done, whether it was paper or online, and Andy led that, but I don't think this is the time to do that. We could get ready for the board meeting, but that was a community-wide survey, and that was one of the many responses.
How many people responded?
Andy, do
It was roughly
50% of 10 people.
It was roughly around 285, which is representative of the full village within 5%.
Every household in the,
3,000 residents.
all right, hold it. Every household in the village received our survey.
No, it
We
doesn't
talked,
go into all the
Andy, we got it.
details. It's a
Andy,
general question.
it was a general question about sidewalks on Wolf Road. And many other things too. It was a 8 or 10 page survey. It was available in writing or on paper, or you could do it online. We had about 280, 300 responses out of all the 2,200 we mailed out. Yet, we asked everybody, is statistically valid within the margin of error? I remember this from grad school and statistics, so we think we have a good baseline of information. All right, that kind of wraps up the meeting. We are a few minutes over. Please, you have until May 12th to get your comment forms in. You can do it in writing and paper or through the web portal. Thank you very much.